All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Gawesky, and I have the privilege of being the lead pastor here at Hope City. And what an honor it is to be with you guys today. Last week, I was in the Dominican Republic on a missions trip, leading a team from Hope City down there, and you're going to hear all about that. But we have been in a series called Friends of the Family, and this series has been an intentional series for us where we have invited voices into our church that love our church. So we've heard from Pastor Mark Alt and Pastor Steve Kleckner, and of course, last week we heard from Pastor Mark Mateer. Fantastic messages. You need to go back and hear those. You can go into the Hope City app or jump online to YouTube, wherever it might be, and watch those and listen to those. They have been a gift to our church for sure. And I'm grateful how they have spoken life into our church. And they're friends of ours. They're friends not only of me, but they've also been friends of Hope City for years, and they're cheering you all on and cheering our church on. And we also have some friends that are a little bit further away that I wish you could hear from. Some friends that I wish could be here, but unfortunately, either finances, culture barriers, language barriers, all of those things have made it so that they can't be here today. But Pastor Basilio did send a video message for you that he wanted you to check out. So let's find our friends in El Peje right here.
Dios le bendiga. Damos las gracias al Señor por este tiempo que Dios nos ha permitido de poder estar aquí para poder bendecir las vidas que puedan ver este video de una manera especial. Por este medio utilizamos para darle la gloria y la honra primeramente a nuestro Dios, porque Él es el que ha puesto el querer como el hacer en cada uno de nosotros. Bendecimos a la vida de nuestro hermano Pastor Peje, juntamente con su familia y los demás hermanos que tienen que ver con Open City. Bendecimos la vida de cada uno de esas personas que han hecho eco, que se hacen partícipes de este ministerio tan poderoso que ha sido una gran bendición para la comunidad del Peje. Doy las gracias a Dios que Dios nos puso en su camino para poder compartir, trabajar y compenetrar y trabajar en unidad en este ministerio tan poderoso, el cual es Open City. Bendecimos la vida de todos. Después que este ministerio ha llegado al Peje, ha sido de mucha y gran bendición para los niños, y no solamente para los niños, sino también para los adultos. Vemos cómo se están incluyendo más niños y los padres también se están involucrando de la iglesia. Estoy viendo el mover de Dios de una manera especial, y gracias a usted, primeramente a Dios y luego a cada uno de ustedes. Así que bendiciones de lo alto para todo lo que tienen que ver en este ministerio de Open City. Bendecimos la vida una vez más de Stephanie, Peter y sus hijos, y la iglesia a la cual están pastoreando de una manera especial. Que Dios bendiga también a nuestro hermano Raúl, y juntamente con Priscila y el conjunto que tienen que ver con Chindre Scott. Así que Dios le bendiga, Dios le guarde, y que el favor del Eterno me los guarde y me los cubra a cada uno de ustedes de una manera especial.
He's a special guy, and he's an incredible pastor that loves his community well. And man, I just have a dream that one day he'll be in front of you guys here sharing his heart for his community and all of the ways that you have impacted his community through trips like this. See, we partner with Children's Cup. Children's Cup is an organization here in the United States that goes into several different countries. I believe it's 8 countries around the world right now, to help feed and care for some of the world's poorest children. Some of the children that outside of this have very, very poor nutrition, very, very poor lack of experience and education and things of that nature. And they walk alongside of them, instilling hope and inspiring dreams that maybe one day they too can become something in all that God has intended them to be. And we love this ministry, but we have also fallen in love with this place called El Peje in the Dominican Republic. Small little town. And I have a dream that one day you would be able to go and see that more of you would be able to firsthand go and witness El Peje. But, you know, I wonder when the last time you allowed yourself to dream. Like some of the things that you're dreaming about in maybe for your future. And I've got dreams of my own, right? Like let's talk about what a dream is, really. It's not just that crazy thing that you wake up from and you're like, what? Did that happen? Like, no. It's not that. A dream is actually a bit of imagining something that you would like to happen in the future. That's a dream, right? I've had dreams, we call them aspirations, goals, whatever it might be. But I had a dream when I was like in high school. I was standing with my dad. We were fishing in this on this rock jetty, and I said, "Man, Dad, I would love to live in a place just like this." And I knew I was going to be a pastor at that time. I'm like, "Man, wouldn't it be great to live kind of by the water and people that love the water and be able to pastor there?" And here we are, man. God answers dreams, right? Like I had goals, aspirations, and I know that you do too. In fact, I would imagine that you've got not only just dreams for your future, but I also imagine that you have dreams for your marriage. That there are things that you want to see happen in your marriage, whether that's some trip that you want to take, some monumental moment you want to experience, or maybe like these two, you just want to grow old and figure out how to take a selfie. I don't know. But you're going to do whatever it can. You got dreams for your marriage. You also got dreams for your kids. I know Tiffany and I do. Like, we got a dream that they're going to get out of our house one day, right? Like, these are some real dreams. But you have dreams of what your children can become and who they can be. And like, the sky's the limit for them, right? And you're dreaming about the ways that they're going to impact the world. And you got dreams for your career. You're thinking about all of the things that you want to see happen in your career, the different maybe titles or offices or places that you're going to go, businesses that might hire you. You got dreams. But we can so easily get wrapped up in the dreams that are all about us, right? In the United States, we have what is known as the American dream. And the American dream is that I'm going to just build myself up, kind of pick up myself from the britches or bootstraps, and we're just going to keep on going. The American dream is centered around two things, essentially: dynasty and destiny. This is what I want to do. I want to build a dynasty, and I want to fulfill my destiny. And it's about what I'm building and what I'm earning. It's comfort and success. But I don't know if you've ever realized that God has dreams for you too. Like, God has a dream for your life and for mine. And, it's like this, that the funny thing about God's dream is that it's actually less about what you get to do and what you get to own, and far more about what God gets to do in you and through you. Quite honestly, the more that I think about God's dream for you, the less that God's dream for you actually has anything to do with you. Track with me. God's dream is for you, but it's through you. Because God's dream is actually this. His dream is that every person through Jesus would be saved and restored to God the Father. Well, where do you see that? John 3:16, but we're going to put it in the Message translation because I know you got it memorized in the KJV. And so here's what we're going to do. This is the paraphrase. This is how much God loved the world. He gave his son, his one and only son, and this is why. So that no one would need to be destroyed. By believing in him, anyone can have a whole and lasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending his son merely to point an accusing finger. No. He telling the world how bad it was. He came to help, to put the world right again. We know that through Jesus, the world can be made whole and right again. See, God invites you to be a part of this, a part of bringing the world and pointing the world to Jesus, to the hope that we have in Jesus. And so here's the interesting thing that we learn. Here's what I want you to recognize early on today, is that your best dreams line up with God's dreams. The best dream that you can have is one that lines up with God's dreams for this world. When your heart and mind start to imagine what you could do with your life, your career, your resources to make a difference in the lives of others and point them to Jesus, that is aligning with God's dream for your life. This past week, like I said, several of us were down in the Dominican Republic, and we experienced a glimpse of God's dream for others. And I tell you what, it's realigned my dreams with God's dreams. Let me introduce you to some of our friends in El Peje. This picture was taken outside of the church. This is the church building right here for now. And Pastor Basilio asked us all to go outside and take a picture together. And let me tell you, it took everything inside of me not to bust out crying with joy and happiness. Because I don't know if you see this, but some of our friends there in the church, in the church of Iglesia del Dios de la Profecia El Peje, practiced that a whole bunch. They're wearing Hope City t-shirts that we brought down. We gave them to my friend Pastor Basilio, and I said, please, Pastor, if you can use these with your leadership team in any way to encourage them, however you see fit, please go ahead and do that. And that night, they were proudly wearing Hope City t-shirts. And our friends, this is the worship team, and they're getting ready to preach and in mid-service. And it was a moment where I thought, man, you guys are impacting their lives, not just through a t-shirt, believe me, but through investing in them. You know, while we were in El Peje, we were in the community for several days. We had the opportunity to go and pray in people's homes and home visits, and the privilege that is of being welcomed into their homes. We were able to bless them with, a month's worth of groceries and then get to hear their stories. And here's a picture of one of the home visits that we went to. It was actually in the village of La Jolla, so just outside of El Peje. And you can see our teams gathered up around them and praying for them. But then the big highlight of the trip was we threw a birthday party for the whole town, of all the kids in that town at one time. And yes, we set up a trampoline and tore it down in a matter of 2.5 hours. Yeah, you do that when you're in the Dominican, because you do that for the next generation to know Jesus and walk with Jesus. And so we're willing to do all that. And then we played games with them, and we set up an inflatable water slide in the middle of a field that just doesn't seem even possible. But I'm telling you this, that it was a glimpse of heaven. There was a kid that was going down this water slide, and I was operating the hose, so that meant I was like just hosing kids down as they were like spraying them in the face and all this stuff. And this kid gets up to the top, and he's got the biggest smile on his face, and he just goes, "Help me, help me, help me." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" Like, I'm looking around, and I'm like, "Isaac, where are you? Come here." Like, I'm talking to the team, and he's going, "Help me," and he's sliding down the thing. And all of a sudden I realize, this is the only English he knows. And he's just like, there's a bunch of Americans here, and so he's going to use his English. Help me, help me. That would be like us going on a water slide and being like, "Donde está el baño? Donde está el baño?" Right, like running around. And it was the funniest thing, but they were so filled with joy. They had such joy in their hearts. And I'm telling you this, that if I could ask my friends in El Peje to speak to you today, I think that they would share a few things with you, and I want to speak on their behalf. You know, at the end of the night, we would have a debrief time with our team, and I'd ask them questions like, what did you see today that you didn't expect to see? Or, where did you see the goodness of God today? Or, what moments will you tell your family and friends about from today? And all of us, at one point in time or another, we said the same exact thing. We said it's unbelievable how much joy that they have in their lives. See, this is my friend Esther. And Esther just radiates joy. This is Pastor Basilio's middle child. She knows Jesus, loves Jesus, walks with Jesus, and she is filled with joy. At the end of the birthday party, the big treat was that every kid got a hot dog and a Coke. And there was just joy and happiness and laughter. And see, I'm telling you that I think that our American dream of ownership and upgrades can kind of convolute what we think of when it comes to joy, because our friends in El Peje knew that joy was found in Jesus, not their circumstances. Psalm 4:7 reminds us of this, and I want to remind you. It says, "You filled my heart with greater joy than when their grain and new wine abound." Guess what? Your grain and your new wine abounds in comparison to my friends in El Peje. Your pantry is overstocked. Your beverage choice, you have a choice. And yet, what we learn is that God can instill a greater joy in you than anything you can purchase and buy. And see, there's a lesson that we learned that we need to learn, and we need to continue to learn and push back against this American dream. And the American dream says that you'll be happy when you have possessions and maybe a little bit of Jesus. That's kind of what we teach. This is not reality. Happiness does not equal possessions plus Jesus. Happiness is situational. You might be happy for a moment. You get a cookie, you're a little bit happy, right? But then, no more cookie. I'm not happy anymore. What's going on, right? And because we're, good Jesus followers, we say, well, you have to have the cookie plus Jesus, and then you could really be happy. That's not the case. Listen to me. According to Psalm 4:7, joy is unconditional. It's not based on what you have or what you're experiencing. It's based on a person. See, joy, the equation for joy is Jesus plus nothing. It's just Jesus. Like, if you want to have joy in your life, look to a person, not a performance and not a product. It's about Jesus. Yeah, Peter, but you don't know my situation. I couldn't possibly have joy in my situation. Yes, you can. I promise you that you can. You can have joy in all seasons, in any situation, no matter how dire or frustrating or agitating or infuriating, you can find joy. Because Jesus is always with you no matter what, and he's life-changing. It can turn any situation from just happiness to joyfulness. But my question is this, are you even looking for joy? Or have you settled on happiness? See, what's your source of joy? Go to Jesus. And in the worst of your situations, here's how you flip the worst of your situations into joy. You use gratitude. Gratitude, being grateful. I've never been more grateful for standing in the shower and not worrying about water getting in my mouth. I literally was okay, let's just do it, right? I've never been more grateful. I have never been more grateful than coming home to people that love me. Seeing my wife, my daughter that wasn't with us. I just loved being back together. I was so grateful for this. In the midst of your worst situations, you can choose gratitude. And here's how you would do that. Gratitude to God is our response to our suffering. So if you're in a hard spot, your suffering, meeting God's sovereignty. That's where gratitude's formed. When you take your suffering and you meet God's sovereignty and you just let gratitude grow. Suffering and sovereignty. Sovereignty is God's ability to be in control of all things, trusting that God is there. Psalm 16:11 in the New Living Translation says this, "You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever." One of the things that we had the privilege of doing while being in El Peje was participating in two different church services. The first service was on Wednesday night. We had woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We had landed at about 10:30 in the morning in the Dominican, maybe 11 o'clock. We received our luggage, we got on the bus, and we ate a Dominican Subway sandwich, and then headed off into some of the visits throughout that day. I knew church was that night, and I knew I'd be preaching that night. But what I didn't know is that we would be singing in Spanish, Haitian Creole, and English. English. And wouldn't you know it, that when it came around to the time when Pastor Basilio was he's saying this in Spanish, I'm translating it for you, or remembering it in English. Would one of your team like to lead a song? Remember, we've been up since 3. And so I look back and I'm like, yeah, come on, guys, let's go. Lead something. And they're all looking at me like, and I look back at them and oh no, we can't offend him in his culture, in his house, right? In his place. And so I go, okay. And I stand up and I walk in the middle of this little hut. And I don't think of an elevation worship song. I don't think of Maverick City. I'm not like Chandler Moore. I can't remember half those words anyway. And in that moment where I'm already worried about preaching, translating, blah, 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 that whole thing, I'm like, what can I remember? The only song that came to my mind was Amazing Grace. Yeah, right, which is great. Every person older than me is like, bring them back, Pastor, bring them back. And so I was like, Amazing grace. Come on, sing it with me. Sing it, sweet. Yeah, come on, the sound. Yeah, but so I'm talking, we're in the Dominican, and you all just were like, brought us back to 1985. And so in the Dominican, they have three primary instruments: their voice, a drum, and a gyro. You don't know what a gyro is. That's not like a Mexican chalupa. That is like, it's a silver tin thing that you scraping. That's when like it plays and you just can't help but move. And like, so we did three of the best songs ever. And they're singing and they're worshiping and they're dancing. And I get up there and I'm like, amazing grace. And I'm telling you, I couldn't get probably to the third bar, and the gyro guy starts going, come on, pick it up, pastor. and he's like playing along with me and moving me along. And there's something about being in their church that was so refreshing. I'll tell you this, that being together as a church is a privilege. They don't take it for granted. This facility, it costs $60 a month for them to rent. And they jam in Titus sardines. And it is sweaty. Like sweaty. This morning, Matt tried to complain that the air conditioning wasn't on in here. And I was like, but you got it, and it's coming. But here's what we saw in the Dominican. We saw Galatians 6:2 come to life. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. If Pastor Basilio was here, I think one of the things that he would tell us is the value and importance of the church. See, what's the law of Christ? The law of Christ is to love God and to love others. This church carried each other's burdens very, very intentionally, very practically, and they fulfilled the law of Christ by loving God and loving others. You know, we saw this in many, many ways, and one of those was that there was a couple in the church that allowed us to use their bathroom, because there's no bathroom in El Peje. Another one was that we saw a family that allowed us to use their electric to blow up that inflatable slide for the party. Another person brought a hose to run the water for the kids. And several stopped their work in order to help us work on the property that now belongs to Children's Cup in El Peje. And as partners with El Peje, we have been the first church to visit this village and be with the kids. The land that they recently purchased was not ready for events and kids to play on it. And so this is a picture of the land. It used to be a cornfield, and so they had all these rows built up, and we just had this, Justin and I were like, this is going to be dangerous. Like, kids are going to be running around. We've got to flatten this to some degree, and so we go back to the community, ask for some shovels, come back to the property, and start leveling this land the best that we can. We laid down all these banana leaves here where the slide was going to go to cushion it, so hopefully it wouldn't pop and all this kind of stuff. And so we've got a pickaxe, a shovel, and another shovel over here. I think we had 3 shovels in total. And so we're just going to town on this. And wouldn't you know it, but Bentony shows up, and he's like, rips the shovel out of my hand. And he had this face of like, you're doing this wrong. Like, you're doing this totally wrong. And then he starts going to work for the rest of the day alongside of us. And then John shows up. John takes the shovel out of somebody else's hand, and he starts tilling the ground and getting it ready to go. It was as if their community said, not in my community. You're not going to care for my community more than I care for my community. See, Bentony, he serves on the worship team. Bentony plays the gyro. He's the guy that saved my life. Bentony lives 2 houses behind the church, and it was in his house that they first started feeding kids in El Peje. That they would, Pastor Basilio would ride over on his motorcycle, which is essentially like a bike with a little bit of a motor on it, and he had 25 meals strapped on the handlebars. And he's riding over, and then he distributed it from Bentony's house. Tiffany and I were there, watching food get passed out from Bentony's house. And now, little did Bentony know, but now Children's Cup is feeding over 45 meals every single day, and it's being served out of the church now, distributed. But understand something, that the church banding together is the strength of community, not just in the Dominican, but here too. Because the church is not a service, it's a community that serves. It's just not like showing up to service. No, we, the church, are a group of people that gather and serve. It's one of the things that I love about Hope City. We're a church that serves, not just a service that meets. Yesterday, several of us met at the home of a single mom to help her move, just to help her get ready to go. This coming week, we're going to be distributing shoes over at Wilkinson. In fact, this card is on your seat right now. Take your smartphone out. I want you to get on that QR code, and I want you to register to sign up to serve for this. Do this Thursday night. It's going to be so much fun. We're providing a hot meal for them. They're going to be able to pick out their own shoes. You will be blessed by serving that day. This fall, we're starting up Saturday Fun Days again. And this doesn't even mention all of the people that serve on the Dream Team every single weekend. We are a community that serves. And what a joy it is to serve in our community. Hebrews 10:23-25 says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. And let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing. But let us encourage one another all the more as you see the day approaching." We need one another. But let me encourage you with this, that if you've taken the summer off, or if you've gotten out of the habit of being invested in your church family, this fall is the time to lean in and engage. We need one another. The one anothering of encouraging each other is so important. See, connect groups are going to be starting up again very soon, and maybe this season you're interested in leading a connect group. Talk to Tiffany. She'll help you. She's organizing connect group leaders, and I know she'd love to have you. Maybe you just need to get in a connect group. You need to connect with other people and be encouraged by them. And let me remind you, the church is not a service. It's a community that serves, and we are gathering people that care for one another. While in El Peje, we went on a home visit that I'll never forget in my entire life. We were invited into a home, and we brought the food. We brought all those good things that we could leave behind and bless that family with. But this is a picture of the home that we were in. Actually, it was a beautiful home, beautiful. And we were invited into the room of the elder statesman of the house, and they wanted us to pray for him. See, the problem is that he's bedridden, and he's at the very end of his life. His name was Fortaleza, and he was 105 years old. And while he was in some pain, not tremendous, but he was in pain, he was also very clear that he was okay to go to heaven and meet Jesus. But what he wanted everyone in the room to know was not his condition. He wanted every person in that room to not just know it, but also see it, feel it, and touch it. He had a little card on his bed, and he passed it around the room. And this card was his church membership card for his life. That's what he was hanging his life on. Jesus first, and his church second. He said he was so proud for everybody to see it, because he knew that the church is not a service, it's a community that serves. And he poured his life into being for other people. I had the privilege of praying for him and laying my hands on his frail legs. And man, I'm telling you, this is a saint of the church. And I sincerely hope that one day you get to go to El Peje and face-to-face see some of our friends, because I believe you're going to learn this and more. See, when you make a left-hand turn down the dirt road, and you see that blue church in front of you, the kids are jumping up and down. They're running into the street. They're getting yelled at. Get back in your chairs. Like, they're doing all this, and they're so excited to see you. See, because their friends are here. That changes you. They got nothing to give you, and yet you leave filled. Ask any person on the team that went. They have no means to bless you, and yet you're incredibly blessed. It reminds me of the promise that God made to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. In the Abrahamic covenant, God promises Abraham something very specific. Look at this. It says, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. See, God hasn't blessed you for comfort. He's blessed you on purpose. He's blessed you for a purpose. He didn't say, Abraham, you need to have a good name. You need property and you need money. It was, I will, so that you will. I will give you everything that you need so that you can help those in need. Abraham, I will give you a name so that you can point others to my name. He says all the people on earth will be blessed through you. And these principles in this covenant apply to you and to I, because you are blessed to be a blessing. God has blessed you richly to be a blessing, and it's far simpler than you think. It doesn't take much to bless others. We've partnered with the church in Peje, and that's a village that we're going to be going back to. We're going to see kids grow healthy and strong, and just not just physically, but also spiritually. We're going to see leaders raised up out of that community. We're going to impact that. We're going to make that happen. We're going to provide resources to train kids, to train parents. I met children this past week who had really, really bad skin conditions before they started being fed by Children's Cup, before they started eating the meals that were balanced with nutrition and protein. Their conditions cleared up. Their intestinal conditions cleared up. Their health changed. But the goal isn't just to change health. It's to change hearts. And it starts with a kitchen. Peje has the land, but it's time to build a kitchen so that these kids can be fed and cared for. I'm dreaming that Hope City will be able to build that kitchen someday. That Hope City will be able to build the kitchen and the covered space where the kids can eat those meals. And I'm dreaming that there will be 100 kids that are fed out of that kitchen every single day. That we would more than double the amount of kids that are able to be fed in that place. I'm praying that the church would increase and grow beyond that covering. I'm praying that church would care for one another. See, God has blessed us with so much. But it's not so that all of our dreams can be accomplished. God blesses you so that you can be a blessing to others. Because what if God puts a dream inside of your heart? Imagine if he brings it to completion. Sometimes we say no before we even go. We don't let the dream actually take root because we're too afraid that it might fail. See, right now I'm praying for 3 kids by name: Samuel, Esther, and Rosalie. I'm praying that God would continue to show me and my family how we can be a blessing to them. I'm not changing where they live. I'm not changing their culture. That's not the point. The point is to come alongside of my friends and keep pointing them back to Jesus and give them dreams for a future, a hope for a future that Jesus can lead them to. I believe that out of those 100 kids that we're going to see pastors raised up, I believe that we're going to see that community have leaders that will continue to change and lead in their village. But if you're interested in the work that God's doing already in Peje, if you're interested in kitchens, if you're interested in, sponsoring kids, let's grab a coffee and talk about it. But here's what I know, is that God's dream is not only for Peje. God has a dream for Sarasota. He's got a dream for the next generation. And he's got a dream for you. And he's going to use you to accomplish that. He's blessed you to be a part of it. What if God is inviting you to create some space in your heart today to dream about something bigger? What if God is inviting you to be a blessing? So what are you praying about these days? What are the things that are on your heart that you're saying, God, let's get it done? What dream is God putting inside of you? And man, what if it came true?